Hello and welcome. Today we're digging into a really sharp analysis of Nepal's political scene. It asks a pretty bold question. In a system that seems to be all about self-interest, how are we, the citizens, actually getting it wrong? It's a challenging idea, and it gets right to the core of what the nation is facing.
Now, this entire breakdown is based on a fantastic article by Professor Dr. Yubaraj Sangrula. So first off, we want to give a huge thank you to him for his work and his insights, and also a big shout out to the online platform Bishwash Kabar Holistic Education for creating a space where these important ideas can be shared. So let's jump into his main argument.
Professor Sangrula kicks things off with a really powerful idea. He says that for way too long, Nepali politics hasn't really been politics. It's been a game where politicians disguise their own personal interests as the national interest. He argues this isn't just bad politics, it's a kind of deception that's actively hurting the country.
Okay, so to really understand what's gone wrong, the article first sets a baseline. It asks, what should real, authentic politics even look like in the first place? And here's the core definition he offers. He argues that genuine political parties aren't supposed to be these vague, fuzzy groups. No, they should be built on a solid ideology and have a clear purpose to represent the interests of a specific social class, whether that's farmers or workers or the business community. Without that, he says, politics just becomes a game without any direction.
So now that we have that ideal in mind, the author draws a really sharp contrast between what should be and what he sees happening in Nepal today.
And this chart really shows the huge gap, right? On one side, you've got the ideal, politics driven by a clear ideology and purpose. And on the other side, you have the reality that the article describes, a system that's basically empty of principles, where the only real goal is personal gain and grabbing power, no matter what it takes.
This brings us to a really key concept the author uses to describe all the political shuffling we see. He has a very specific name for them, the unholy alliances.
Yeah, he uses this powerful Nepali phrase, Apabitra Gathabandhan, which translates to unholy alliances, to describe these political partnerships. And it's such a striking term because it suggests these aren't coalitions built on shared values or a common vision. They're just alliances of convenience, thrown together for purely selfish reasons.
So what's really driving these alliances? Well, according to the article, it has nothing to do with public service. It's all about fear, the fear of being left out of the game. It's about protecting personal fortunes and just waiting, biding time for that perfect moment to seize power. It's a cycle that just keeps feeding itself.
But here's the thing. The author doesn't just point out the problem. He goes on the offensive. He confronts the political establishment head-on with a series of really sharp, really challenging questions.
He starts with this fundamental challenge to the entire political class. He's basically asking, look, after almost 4 decades in power, what do you have to show for it? Where are the tangible results? Where's the progress? And the article strongly implies that the answer is not much.
And the questions just get more intense from there. He directly connects the dots between the country's current struggles, whether they're economic, social, or political, and what he calls unimaginable corruption, and these very same unholy alliances.
He really hammers this point home, right? He's suggesting that the reason these alliances are so flimsy, the reason they form and break so easily, is because they were never built on anything solid to begin with. There was no real ideology there.
And this next one really highlights the weakness of it all. As he points out, truly stable governments don't just fall apart overnight. And blaming other countries or outside forces, he argues that's just a way of admitting you failed to lead.
And finally, he just throws down the gauntlet. He challenges the political players of today to justify their actions. Tell us, he asks, what principles are guiding you now? What's the basis for all these new deals and splits? The strong implication is that there just isn't a good answer.
So after that intense cross-examination, the article shifts to lay out the devastating, real-world consequences of this entire political culture. What has the cost actually been? And honestly, the picture the author paints is incredibly grim. He describes a nation tangled up in geopolitical games with a shattered economy, a ruined education system, and an environment in deep crisis. He says corruption has seeped into every single sector, causing things like agriculture to collapse, while the national debt just keeps climbing.
And if you need one single example to see how deep the absurdity and waste go, the article gives this jaw-dropping one.
A government minister actually appointed a makeup advisor who was given the rank and all the perks of a state minister. It's a small detail that just says so much about the priorities.
Okay, so after that incredibly bleak assessment, you have to ask, right? Is there a way out? Where does the country even go from here? Well, let's look at the path forward that the author proposes.
The very first step, according to the article, is accountability. It states very clearly that blaming foreign powers is not an excuse. It doesn't get you off the hook. He says leaders have to own up to their failures and their corruption. That's step one.
And from there, the author calls for a completely new kind of alliance. Not one of those unholy alliances based on power, but a conscious unity. A partnership of people he calls patriots and progressives, people who are genuinely, truly dedicated to bringing about real socioeconomic change.
And this all brings us to the final, really powerful conclusion of the article. It suggests that maybe the way forward isn't about finding another single charismatic leader. Instead, it leaves us with this question: is it time to start seeking ideas instead of individuals, to focus on principles and a clear, shared vision for the nation's future? And that's a powerful thought to end on.